Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Ben. In this episode, we are going to look at how Jabba the Hutt would run the USA. So Jabba finds himself on Earth, somehow, with his entourage.
It's like when a girl asks if you want to bang her hot sister. Of course you say no. Neither of you really believes you mean it, though.
What is he doing here?
No, not those guys, but Boba Fett, Bib Fortuna, Greedo, Rancor Trainer Bro. You know, the guys. They have a couple of small ships, including Slave One and the sail barge with them, but nothing powerful enough to enable them to dominate humans. So Jabba decides he wants to run for the office of president in order to gain control of the country. But there's one problem: you have to be born an American citizen to run for the office of president. So Jabba forges a birth certificate and he joins the Democratic Party. He immediately gets on well with those high up in the party and wins the primary. The other contender mysteriously died in a lawn mowing accident. During the election, Jabba runs a larger-than-life campaign with policies that appeal to millennials, such as legalizing marijuana. Well, all drugs for that matter. But he also demonstrates good business sense. He advocates increasing production of raw minerals and fuel from the United States and increasing military power to better dominate global shipping. A similar strategy to how he controlled hyperspace lanes in the Outer Rim. But the thing that pulls most on the heartstrings of the electorate is the fact that Jabba is a father. Babies are powerful in electoral campaigns.
Have a baby, I need to kiss right down there.
Don't worry about it. What's the matter with him?
My district, that's my baby to kiss.
Excuse me, please.
Jabba's son Rota is no different, and since there is no Mrs. Hutt present, Jabba presents himself as a single father, with him and his son appearing on a variety of daytime TV shows. And the nation laps it up. Come polling day, things go well for Jabba, with astromech droids interfacing with electronic polling stations to give him that little bit of a push he needs. Jabba secures a win in the Electoral College and becomes the president. Jabba keeps his promise and legalizes all narcotics, which are now sold in stores and taxed. He also expands gambling license to basically anywhere. This brings in a windfall of money for the treasury. Jabba uses this extra tax revenue to develop mining, oil drilling, and extraction of rare earth minerals from US territory. He enlarges the Navy and starts charging foreign ships for using the world's oceans, anywhere there is a US Navy presence. Basically, the US Navy board commercial ships and demand protection money. The US starts to become even richer than it already is, and Jabba's approval ratings soar. But after a while, cracks start to appear. Because of the shipping fees that the US Navy now charges, which kind of break international law, the US gets involved in lots of small naval skirmishes and in a few areas, full-scale naval wars. Other countries are outraged, and Jabba gets a grilling at the G7 meeting, so he puts a bounty on Angela Merkel's head. The US switches its loyalties from the Western European nations and starts to get friendly with countries such as North Korea, Iran, and Russia, all super sketchy countries, but Jabba gets on great with their leaders. Back home, Jabba, benefiting from charging protection money to gangs operating on the southern border, lets criminals slip in, and kidnappings increase. People find themselves abducted and forced to mine minerals in US government operations in the mountains, or find themselves shivering to death drilling for oil in Alaskan nature reserves. Jabba doesn't really understand that slavery is not okay. As for womanizing, he makes Bill Clinton look like a saint. He has his female White House interns clad in bronze bikinis and kept on leashes in the Oval Office, which by the way now has a trapdoor with an execution pit directly below the rug. Jabba is all about extracting the maximum amount of money from the US's resources, but often this money doesn't benefit the US population. Jabba instead uses it for remodeling the White House, for a ban on permanent residency in the Oval Office, and for sail barge vacations in the Nevada desert, which reminds him of home. While on vacation in the desert, Jabba comes up with a new money-making idea, one he used back home on Tatooine: a tax on water. What a great idea! Since everyone uses water, everyone will pay it, especially those out in the desert who are most desperate for water. But Americans have a long history of opposing taxes on stuff, and water is the final straw. Militia groups start to form out in the west of the United States, and they prepare for a march on Washington, D.C. As they march across the country, local law enforcement are supposed to stop them, but they don't. Some even join the march, filled with patriotic fervor. The National Guard are sent to intercept them, but they never show up. It seems their generals decided to let the coup take place. As they get to the outskirts of DC, Boba Fett launches an attack in Slave One, killing several hundred militiamen, but those remaining spread out and use guerrilla tactics to get to the White House. Jabba, Greedo, and Bib make their last stand in the Oval Office, but they are overwhelmed. When Boba Fett comes back, he finds the White House surrounded, so he quietly slips away and lands somewhere in New Zealand where he thinks he'll blend in and go unnoticed. With Jabba dead, police storm the White House. They find large amounts of cash hidden in closets, drugs, and a collection of frogs in vinegar. Trump returns to DC and gets elected again in a massive rebound for the Republicans. And this time he really does fill up the National Mall. So guys, that is what I think we would see happening if Jabba the Hutt was president. It would be a disaster. He is too much of a criminal to run things in an upright and honest way. We would definitely be seeing smuggling operations, extortion, assassinations, etc. If US citizens hadn't risen up, other countries would probably have ended up at war with the US. But we know from past examples, notably World War II, that this doesn't happen straight away. Hitler had several years in power, conquering other smaller countries before it erupted into a full-scale world war. In the US, it wouldn't get to that. There are as many guns here as there are people. Look, every weekend there are people reenacting the Civil War. They just can't wait for a battle. And so it wouldn't be that difficult for them to organize into a militia and go deal with the president, especially after they won the support of law enforcement and the army. Alright guys, that's my take on it. Please leave your comments on how you think this scenario would play out below. Don't forget, we have this new design of Humanity First Death to Alien Scum t-shirts. I don't want aliens running my country, so let's make sure we maintain a hostile attitude towards them, so if they ever do arrive on Earth, they'll know what's up straight away. As always, if you're new, please subscribe, give this video a like, and if you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.